So tell me about getting the role of TK. How did it happen? Tell me about the audition.
Oh man, that's the greatest moment of my life. I believe it was like March or April of 2019 that Ryan Murphy was doing a spinoff of 911 and that Rob Lowe was attached to it. Weirdly enough, the year before I did a pilot for Hulu. It was the Less Than Zero adaptation of the book. And we tried to do a TV show, but it was definitely not the time for that kind of content. But my character, his entire sort of look and inspiration was Rob Lowe in the 80s. And I remember all of my character prep and all of the fittings and everything I went to, there was always Rob on the walls. And then cut to less than a year later, I have an opportunity to audition for his son for the same studio. And I'm like, this is literally a miracle. You know, I don't know what you call it, fate, chance, you know, I don't know what it is, but here I am auditioning for the man that, you know, I sort of was emulating for a couple of months. And luckily enough, I got the part and I had a chemistry read with Rob, and that was so bizarre. And after that, I was like, you know, even if I don't get the part, I'm happy. You know, I got to do this. I got to audition for, you know, literally the king of television. It luckily went my way. And then here we are now, season 2.
So what did you know about the character of TK? Did you know he was gay? Did you know this drug background? How much did you know?
I knew all of that. For me, it was never an issue. It actually was a little strange because growing up, I had sort of a opioid issue, and that was a major influence coming from where I come from. I believe it's actually still booming, and it's horrible. I think it got even worse. I think just the opioid crisis all over America is just truly horrible right now. So that was a little strange for me. It's like life imitating art. And then, you know, obviously the character being gay, and, you know, that's a side of me that I never was comfortable talking about, or, you know, never, I mean, I couldn't talk about it coming from where I come from, you know, having those feelings and having that experience. So it was all very close to home. And I knew that it would be so much more than, you know, another acting gig or another character to take on. It was very personal and very, very intimate, you know, especially knowing like who's creating the show, how massive the audience is going to be. So it was definitely, you know, nerve-wracking and a little mind-boggling at first, you know, like how specific TK was to my personal life. But, you know, obviously it's the greatest experience of my life, both career and life. So it's been unbelievable. It's been a roller coaster for sure.
Was there a part of you that was too nervous to take it? Were you right away saying, you know what, I'm going to take it? Or was there a part of you saying, you know what, hey, this is so close to home, I'm a little scared of it?
I was definitely a little scared of it. I knew it would be, you know, a chance of a lifetime. You know, after all, it would be really fun, you know, and I knew that it would be extremely challenging physically and emotionally. I think the only part of me that was nervous, and, you know, I don't think I ever had thoughts of like not taking the role, but I think the big thing for me was my parents and friends back home. For me, that was sort of the biggest like hesitation that I felt of what are they going to think? You know, it's definitely going to make them uncomfortable. They might question some things. They might not watch it, to be completely honest. You know, I'm sure, as a lot of people know, I think in the second episode, my partner in the show, Carlos, and I have a huge makeout scene where we like burst through the door and we're ripping our clothes off, and it's super hot, and it just goes on. It just doesn't stop. And, you know, we're like crashing against the walls, and then we end up on the couch. And, I always knew that scene was going to happen because we did that scene in the chemistry read with the actor, with Raphael. So I always knew that was coming, and I warned my parents and warned my friends for months, and I said, listen, I understand if you guys don't want to watch it. I understand you probably might say some really, ignorant, closed-minded stuff, and I get it. Or you just might not want to watch it, and I get that too. So that was sort of that was the only uncomfortable sort of hesitation that I felt with this character.
A little bit more about the journey. Where are you today? How do you identify today?
Oh man, I fully identify as bisexual. I literally just got goosebumps saying that. It feels so good to, first of all, talk about it. It feels so good to finally be comfortable with it. Yeah, it's been a journey, man. I think the biggest thing for me is where I come from. It's like people like me and people that, have identified as bisexual or gay or, as any part of the community, you're just not welcomed. It's as brutally honest as that. It's either you face insane amounts of profanity, like the F word was thrown around all the time. You would get your ass kicked if you were gay. So there was definitely a fear of sort of embracing how I felt. I was definitely more aware of it in high school. I was aware of my feelings and how I started looking at men, and I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I don't even know if I knew anybody gay in high school. And if they did, because of the group that I was in, we wouldn't interact. I'd probably get my ass kicked for even interacting with them. It wasn't until I started professionally pursuing acting and I started traveling to the city for auditions, I started to see more. I mean, just being in the West Village, which right now is if I could live anywhere other than LA, it would be right in the heart of the West Village. That's where I my eyes opened up, and I was like, oh my God, like there is a world. There is a different world than what I know and from what I see on television. And, I would more and more start hanging out in the West Village, started meeting amazing people. And that's sort of when my world started slowly expanding. And, I had to keep it to myself. It's not like I was bringing my friends to come hang out with me. I would tell my parents, it's like, yeah, I was with some girl, in Central Park. It's great, it's whatever, we were drinking beers. That's what I had to sort of face growing up. But then, you move to LA, and God, I'm so grateful to be a Californian, man, because it is the most, at least parts of it, it's the most open-minded, welcoming place probably in the world. So I was able to, finally embrace how I felt and just finally embrace, who I truly was. And it was, obviously this role and this world that I was put in with Lone Star and, and TK and Ryan Murphy, and where I finally was able to truly express myself and be who I wanted to be and feel the way I wanted to feel without being suppressed or, or being terrified, honestly. And, TK has been, I think he is a miracle for me. I truly do. And, the people that I've gotten to meet through it, it's been unbelievable. And I'm finally comfortable. It's crazy. It feels so effing good. I don't want to curse. It feels so good. And, just being able to talk to my friends about it, obviously, talking to my parents wasn't smooth, but things are, they're getting better. And I can't expect them, to be fully, gung-ho about this. But things are getting better. And yeah, I just finally feel comfortable and safe, to be honest.
Why do you want to be public about it?
Well, I think for me, the biggest reason is, I've sort of dedicated my career to trying to help people. Specifically, my big thing was always the planet. I sort of feel like the parallel to my career is always going to be activism, because we have a massive platform, we have a massive influence. We can actually truly help people and change people's lives, and we can get our voices heard by people in power, as you saw in 2020. I always was extremely vocal about the LGBTQ community, and it's for me, it's another step into fighting for what I believe is right and what I feel is happening right now in the world. And there's too much injustice happening with the LGBTQ community. Literally, this past week has been a fucking nightmare, excuse my language. And it hits extremely close to home. And then, being friends with Brian Michael Smith and being his co-star and seeing what's going on in our country, in America, still, it's just another reason for me to be vocal and be fully open with myself and with people. Because now, this past year, I've had thousands, probably tens of thousands of people reach out to me about what TK has meant to them. And I have people coming out to their conservative parents. I have people coming out to their parents in countries where it's still illegal. And, I feel like me being finally true to myself and letting people in, it could only change more people's lives, and it can only help more people. Because they've been so vocal and honest with me, and they don't know me except for a character on the TV screen. So the least I could do is be honest and vocal with them. And, I always say this, it's like the fans, especially the Tarlos fans, it's one of the biggest reasons that I finally felt safe and comfortable to talk about it, and to finally embrace it and to be happy about it, like this is, I want people to know that this is a hopeful and a happy story, and I want people to know that they're not alone, and it's definitely okay. And trust me, I know that it is not easy. My path has not been easy at all. It's just one more thing that I can share with people to help them and to know that, I'm here for them. And we have to keep fighting, because the other people are fighting right back. I think that's one of the biggest reasons I decided to be vocal. If we were living in a kumbaya world and in a utopia, maybe I wouldn't be, sharing my story so openly, but there's a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of things happening in the world that are just not right. So
Tell me about the support system you have. You have someone like Ryan Murphy who has your back. It has to feel pretty good, right?
I still can't honestly believe it. It's very bizarre, in the greatest way possible. He's always been a role model to me in the sense of what one person can do in the entertainment industry, and how many people's lives he could change and help just through entertainment and opening doors that have never been opened. And that's something that I always subconsciously wanted to do. And, right now I'm doing it sort of for some people through just acting. And I think that's the greatest accomplishment for an entertainer, in my personal opinion. And the fact that now I have his support and guidance, it's unbelievable. I remember I talked to him about this, and just how generous he was, and how kind he was, and how open. I think the biggest thing was how open he was. I had to pinch myself. I still do. I can't put into words. It's truly amazing. He's an incredible human. He's an incredible creator, innovator, whatever you want to call him. And to know that he's got my back is just, it's everything. It's really everything.
I did some quick Googles when your publicist first called me, did some more today. And most of the Google questions for you is Ronen gay? Is he dating someone? Most things say, well, he's pretty private about his private life, but you have been in a relationship with a woman, another actress. Where does she come into play in all this? How has she been in terms of your support system?
She's been the greatest support system. She's funny enough, she's actually one of the first people that sort of respectfully called me out on it. Yeah, something happened. She's like, is there something we need to talk about? And I said, maybe. And I didn't know how that conversation would go. And it went probably as good as it can go. And, you know, she definitely encouraged me to be vocal about it, just to live my truth, you know. And she's like, I love you for who you are, your full self. And people will love you who you are for your full self. And if people don't want to, then they could go, they could go somewhere. But she's been truly the greatest partner in all of this. And, it hasn't changed our relationship. It hasn't changed our dynamic. She just sometimes jokes, she's like, just don't leave me for Harry Styles. And I said, listen, I can't promise you anything. No, I don't mean that. Sorry, babe. But yeah, she's, it's been, and to have that kind of support, I think that's another path that a lot of people might not have. I'm sure sometimes it could truly damage a relationship. It could probably completely break someone up. Or sometimes people, they don't have, a partner in this, or they don't have a support system, while going through this. So I'm sure that must be super difficult, but I've been very lucky, and she's the greatest person ever.
And now for a moment, let's go back on the bridge, back to Staten Island.
Oof.
You haven't been to Manhattan yet. It's little Ronen. What do you say to little Ronen?
I want to say to him, feel the way you want to feel, and be who you are, but it's so much easier said than done, especially being that young. It's a scary place to be in. And it's sort of like what you said. If I had a Tarlos growing up, maybe we'd be having a different conversation, or, maybe I'd be on a completely different path. But I'd like to say, be who you are, but, that would come with some pretty ugly consequences. But I think at the end of the day, it's worth it. And, if your friends aren't going to accept you for who you are, then find new friends. And again, that's all easier said than done, but you need to surround yourself with people that love you for truly who you are and will support you no matter what. I think that's what I would tell him. And I think he'd find his way around. I think he would definitely hang out with the theater kids much earlier and feel supported and loved. But I'm just glad that, I got around to it eventually.